As somebody that owns the Sony FX30 and the Sony A7 III, why am I choosing to use this camera that came out in 2014 as my daily go-to camera for photography? A little bit of the backstory is that this camera is the Sony A6000 and I ended up purchasing it over 10 years ago. This is my very first camera that allowed me to get introduced into the Sony ecosystem, but also into videography and photography. I truly believe that I wouldn't be in this journey right now if it wasn't for this camera, because this camera is what started setting the standards for me in regards to the direction that I wanted to take this whole journey in. A couple years after purchasing this camera, I eventually upgraded to the Sony A7 III, and then after that I eventually upgraded to the Sony FX30. Because of those upgrades, this camera sat on my desk collecting dust for many years. But as the years went on, I started noticing that I was carrying a lot of camera gear with me, but I started limiting myself as well because I was trying to take care of all of that camera equipment by making sure that it was safe within a camera backpack or safe stored somewhere where it wouldn't get damaged. I started missing a lot of the in-between moments and everyday life moments that I wouldn't be capturing if it wasn't for a camera like this. So at the beginning of the year, I made a goal for myself to start carrying around this camera everywhere I went in order to capture some in-between moments and just everyday life. The Sony A6000 definitely serves that purpose because it's a super compact camera body, and especially when paired with the 7 Artisan's 35mm lens that is made specifically for APS-C camera sensors. Even though this camera came out in 2014, it offers an APS-C 24.3 megapixel sensor that is perfect for photography. Granted, many people will say the more megapixels the better, but that's not always going to be true. I started noticing as years went on that I was a little bit more strategic on when I would pull out my cameras. I had to have a reason or a purpose in order to carry my cameras with me. Therefore, there were many days where I was leaving all my camera gear at home because I didn't have any reason to carry them around with me. Because I have owned this camera for over 10 years, the fear of losing it or potentially damaging it is not really there anymore. But as a result, I started noticing that I started taking a lot more pictures because I always had a camera with me and it was always ready to go. When it comes to videos, this camera only offers a 1080p resolution video, but depending on what you're going to be using this camera for, I truly believe that 1080p is more than enough. I would categorize it as similar to using your cell phone whenever something comes up that you want to take a video of. This is going to serve that same purpose, but without the distractions that a cell phone has to offer. One of the benefits of having this camera ready to go is that I don't have to worry about stopping my car or having to go to my trunk or having to go home in order to gather all my camera gear, rig it up in order to capture everyday life. In order to capture everyday life, it should be as easy as pulling your camera out and being able to take a picture with it, instead of having to worry about what lens you're going to use, what camera you're going to use, and what the scene is calling for in regards to the gear that you need. As long as you have a camera that's ready to go, in my instance, the Sony A6000, I'm able to just pull my camera out and focus more on what I'm actually wanting to capture with this camera instead of worrying about the gear, because the gear is already set. Therefore, that's one worry less in my mind when trying to capture that moment. Coming full circle to the goal that I set at the beginning of this year in order for me to start using this camera as my daily go-to photography camera, the goal's purpose was to capture everyday life moments that I otherwise was missing because of my other camera gear. When it comes to photography, I truly believe that there are many definitions that people have on what they consider photography. Yes, sometimes it's considered a professional project that you're shooting for a client, which you actually need high resolution cameras or a high dynamic range cameras or very good low light cameras in order to get that project completed. But when it comes to everyday life, I truly believe that it shouldn't be that complicated. When you look back at pictures that you have taken throughout your life, the last thing that you're actually thinking about is the megapixels of that image. You're more focused on the story or the people or the memories that you're capturing within those photos. And I truly believe that there are times where people lose focus of that. They focus more on the specs and making sure that they have the highest resolution. But when it comes to everyday life, I don't truly believe that matters. When it comes to photography, my opinion is that the story, the memories, the moments in time that you're capturing with your images are a lot more important than the megapixels or the dynamic range or the specs of your camera. To me, photography means capturing a moment in time that otherwise would have disappeared into the past. To me, that's the true meaning of photography, and that is the main reason why I have chose to carry around this camera for everyday life moments in 2026. If you guys do have questions about the Sony A6000, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.